Okay, welcome to the second map guide. This time we're looking at Tears of the Desert. This is one that was requested by quite a few people, and I think that's fair because it's a very interesting map that's difficult to play. It's been known as Tears of the Cruisers for a while, and yeah, there's some really solid positions in this map, but not necessarily the easiest ones to play. So, like usual, we'll start with radar positions, since they're the most stationary and static. So we're looking here at some typical spots you're going to see radar ships. The things I would say are the most common to start out with are this radar ship here and this radar ship here. They're generally the best islands for it, at least over here on the A cap. And the reason for that is this island is just so much better than this island. You'll see how tall this is, right? The cross shots can't really happen, assuming you get up nice and close to this island, and you get a nice coverage of this cap with radar. Whereas this island, you see how much beach there is. Really bad for a cruiser because you're forced to play so much farther away from the big cover that you have, so there's less protecting you from either side. So like we talked about, battleship crossfires are definitely something to worry about. And you'll see the opposite side gets a really bad island here as well. And that's a pretty big problem because um, it actually forces the radar cruiser to play here, and you can farm it out very easily from there. And then if it's forced to back up, you can possibly lob shots over this, and sometimes they back up far enough for you to get shots through here. That's kind of the main starter spots on ACAP. But yeah, as you can see, the radar is, more than enough to reach these areas. Typically it's Russian radar on this map if you're curious. And yeah, you get good 12-kilometer radar there. And again, another 12-kilometer radar there. You could possibly use, American radar, but you're not going to quite get the whole thing. The American radars are generally more wanting to be here on this, the corner of this island. So that's the other spot you're going to see radar, but it's far later into the game. And that requires you to send ships all the way through here like this. And the biggest thing you have to do if you're a destroyer, you need to spot this. Generally, the ships are going to have, a 10 to 14 kilometer concealment. So if they're right near the map border, that means that they're either here or here in terms of concealment. So you want to send your destroyer up into here, far enough away from this radar cruiser that it's not going to be a massive threat, and you want to send your DD up here to spot from both sides, because this threat to get to this island is massive for controlling this cap. This sometimes happens in random battles. You'll see me make this play a lot in random battles because it's just that strong. Assuming I have sufficient support in these areas down here or up here. That's kind of the main thing. But if you spot these ships as they're crossing, they're flat broadside to your entire team over here. And same with over here. If you're pushing from the south, it's, tons of shots from here as the guys are pushing up to here. But the reason this is so strong is you can see this island is massive from both sides. And it's a little better from the other side, but it's still really good here to, fit a radar cruiser right in here. And then you'll have to find some way of digging this ship out if you ever hope to take A. But the best way to deal with it is to stop it before it even gets there. That's kind of the look at A cap to start with. And as the DD, you generally kind of want to come to about here. And you'll get spots on these guys as they're trying to cross. Of course, keep in mind, the enemy destroyer is going to be doing the same thing if they're looking out for that play. And there will be torps in the water. Generally, the DDs will, send their torps through like this on this angle. And same for this one over here, through here on this angle, to try and catch that destroyer and stop it from spotting and all that stuff. All the counterplay stuff like that. That's kind of the main look at A. B cap is really weird because it's hard to get a radar ship around it. At least from the A side. We talked about this island not being so good. This island's a little too far away to get decent radar. So from the north, you can possibly put a radar ship here. You can see I have it on the map. It works decent, it's got good range in that, but the island is really small. So if you have a way of spotting this ship from either back here or over here, They're two really good spots to spot it from. Once, if you get control of this cap, or you can send something here to possibly spot it. I do have ships on the island, and that's always an option, is to just full send a ship into the B cap. Generally, you're going to want to come around this island, and I've seen that done plenty of times. You're just going to want to make sure you're able to support that ship very well. And this island is far better from the... well, I don't know if I would say better from either side. This side has way taller cover, as you can see, but you're opened up to anybody over here. And, I mean, this is not really a strong position to play at all here. So from the north, you have to come to this side. But from the south, you're actually reasonably covered. You know, this island protects you pretty well from the guys way up north. And this is actually just enough, if you're really close in here, it's just enough to block shots from over here. Unless they have to be really far away to get those shots. And then you should be looking for that and throttle jockeying there. B-cap is interesting for radar too, because they have all these islands along here. A good spot often is to put a radar ship here, or here, or from the other side here, or here. The south side gets slightly stronger positions just because they're a little bit safer, but you can see from these positions, you know, you get a 12-kilometer radar in there, you're more than good enough to get everything. Not necessarily from the north side, but you get most of it. And you can always push out, nose out, that kind of thing. There's a reason that it's usually the Russian cruisers that do better for radar on this map. Now looking at the sea cap just a little bit, I do have ships here. They're really risky, and you shouldn't play this island. Because as you can see, it's just tiny. There's no point in playing this island, really, unless you know your team is going to have really good control over this side of the map. Because one of the better positions you can get into is actually this island. It's small, sure, but you're pretty far away. So you're actually able to lob shells over more, and because the island is so long like this, you're able to sit back here, and assuming you have spotting from your team, you're able to shoot all these guys here. And if you ever noticed, in random battles a lot, people often get stuck right here and right here. Oftentimes the whole sea flank just stalls out because everybody stops here, bow in, stops here, bow in. Cruisers are back here, you know, spamming HE, and that's it. But the way you deal with that is if ships are here, you send a few ships down here, and then you get yourself, those nice crossfires that we've been talking about, that kind of thing to deal with the enemy ships, and same from the other side too, right? It's very powerful to deal with that, and of course you can always have somebody cross mapping like that too, if you want to get rid of the people here. But just know that they do have big islands that, if they're disciplined enough, you can definitely hold for quite a while back here. You need some pretty strong firepower to, especially this island, to push this island out is really difficult, and you need good spotting. So that brings us to the destroyers. Decent spots to go from. We already talked a little bit about A and coming up to these areas in here and here. It's actually pretty much the same on C. You want to come up here into this area here, you know, probably backing in, that kind of thing. You're going to get amazing spotting on all these guys here. If anybody shoots, battleships push in, you're getting awesome spotting. Same from the other side. And usually you'll find the radar cruisers are over here. Generally, people don't like to make this play here. And the bonus of you sitting in these two positions is you're going to spot all the people that are trying to make this play. When you put your little destroyer right here. And right here. You get really nice spotting in on these guys, and as people are pushing like this. So that's really, really, really helpful for your team, is spotting. These caps are large. I don't know if you can see that, but that is a gigantic cap. So there's nothing stopping both DDs from just sitting and stalling the caps. So whatever DD is stalling the caps and spotting the enemy team better is probably going to win the flank. Same on A. The caps are just that gigantic. So you're going to want to do as much as you can to spot the enemy team if you're a destroyer on these flanks. It's really far ranges, so gunboating is useful, but A DD that spots well and gets their team that's, generally back here or back here, really good shots on the enemy team is probably going to win the flank, assuming everything else is equal. Now, B cap for destroyers is a very interesting one because you can do the full send into this island like we talked about for cruisers. The problem will be that you're very well inside radar of a lot of ships. So if suddenly people get angles from far away over here or over here, let's say they win C cap, people will get angles to shoot you. And destroyers don't have a lot of health to deal with that. So YOLOing the island is not as good of a play in a destroyer, especially in random battles when your teammates won't be helping you nearly as much. It can be a good play if you're a Hydro destroyer. So Z52, even Daring, you set up on this island and you got to be really good at dodging, but your Hydro is enough to get the DD on the other side if they sent a DD in here. And that can be a really good play, a really strong play to deal with the enemy capping here. Or if the enemy sent their radar cruiser in here, or just a really strong cruiser in here, you can send your Hydro DD in here and just Hydro him the whole time, as long as your team is getting shots on him, of course. It is tricky to get into that position. So what I recommend is waiting on B. Patience on B is going to be the key to getting it. If you want to, you can back in, right? There's always the option to back in right from the very top of B here like this. And then if you do end up getting radared, you can just run away really quickly. Same from the other side. That's kind of going to be your best way to go about it if you want to start with getting B. But the main thing you're going to want to look out for is where the radar cruiser is positioned. So if the radar cruiser is positioned here or here, like we showed, you're probably not going to be getting the cap without getting radared. Sorry. You're just going to get radared by this guy or by this guy if you're trying to take the cap. It is best, obviously, to go directly across from the radar cruiser, be as far away as possible, to be in radar range the least amount of time as possible. But if the enemy sent their radar cruisers here and here, like they usually do, these two positions, well, then you're going to want to sit your destroyer over on the edges more, right? So you put your DD up here, let's say, and back in, or you put your DD down here and you back in. Well, there's no way these guys are going to radar. But these positions are really, 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 really bad, of course, if the radar is here or here. Now, there might be both, obviously, and then you got to be really careful. And then you probably don't want to be YOLOing for the caps anyway. But these positions will definitely radar you if you're over here. So then if the radars are here and there's not as much here, or maybe they're not paying as much attention, then you can try and do the reversing in from these positions over here. And you see, I'm always trying to position my DD, if I'm trying to get the cap, as far away as possible from the radar positions that we're talking about, right? That's the goal. That is always the goal. You're trying to get the cap without risking too much. That's the thing. You're trying to do it without risking too much. That's the main deal with destroyers. And spotting is very strong on this map because there's a lot of times where a cruiser or something will be hiding behind an island, or they'll be, sitting on these islands, for example, and they're usually fine to shoot, right? If you're here in a cruiser and you got long range guns, you're fine to shoot over top of these islands. But by positioning your destroyer out here, anytime this guy shoots, he's going to get spotted by you, and then your team has the ability to shoot back. The main reason things snowball is when these guys aren't spotted and they're able to just shoot indefinitely over top of these islands without getting spotted and shot back at. That's how you really snowball a game very quickly. Now, the last thing we should talk about really is battleship positions. And there are a few really good spots to go. At the start, you probably are just going to want to go to the flanks somewhere in here, and same on the from the north side. Taking general positions on the side of the map is generally going to be better because it is a very big map. There's always the option for the central play, but which can work, and I have done it before, where you take your battleship and actually reverse along these islands. Can be an interesting play. that prevents you from getting spotted from over here, and you can actually get some pretty insane cross shots into these guys through these lines here. And that can help with, let's say you back your battleship up far enough, well, suddenly you can get these shots into this cruiser up here. That's a possibility. Same from the other side too. You know, if we pull this battleship reversing in like this and get him his shots, right? You can get those kind of shots in if these ships absolutely must be dealt with, right? And that's, you know, sometimes possible. But it's really risky to back your battleship in like that. You have to be working really well as your team. So generally, what I like to do is I'll put my battleship in here if I'm trying to push a secondary battleship. Using this island as a good stopping point. The reason this island right here is a good stopping point is it has this little hook, you see? Where you can put your battleship in here, in this little crevice, and you generally aren't going to get spotted too much, and enemy ships up here are going to have a really hard time dealing damage to you. And all this time, you can be dealing damage out here. That can be a good spot if you're trying to really push hard with your battleship. Might be a Russian or German or premium American battleship. But oftentimes what I'm doing is I'm actually coming down here these days. I'm actually trying to push my battleship to the flanks. Just to break up how stale this can get. The, you know, bow on versus bow on fights, you know, from here to here. I just don't enjoy those as much, so I'm actually running my battleships down here more. And if you can get your battleship down into behind this island, you basically have won this cap for your team. You know, assuming there's a DD spotting these guys for you. Well, that's just a beautiful crossfire, right? You get a battleship shooting at these guys from these angles. That's awesome, right? It's hard to get your battleship in there, but it's definitely really worth trying. You got to remember that your battleship's detection is massive, right? So, you know, 14 kilometers is pretty standard, right? So that's going to be tricky to push your battleship into that area. So you want to do it cautiously, and only if they allow you to. It's not something I'm just going to full send in into these positions at all. And the biggest problem actually comes when you go past these islands here from the north. It's really, really hard to push the south thing from the north because you bring your battleship along here like this and you get spotted here. Oh no, I got to turn out. And there's an island in the way. So you can very easily find yourself caught by this little island here. And then everybody over here is going to have free shots on you, and you'll be stuck beached, or you got to go very broadside to get around this island. And you'll notice the other side doesn't have as big of a problem with that because this island is so much farther back from the cap compared to this island. So dealing with that is way easier from the south side as a battleship. So you'll often find me actually playing up here in my battleship from the north, not pushing as hard to this island. You'll see me in this area kind of thing. You know, threatening to go there if it's available, but usually I won't end up going there. Whereas from the south, especially if I have a fast battleship, I'll just full send it. You know, go to the border here, get your cross shots along. You know, it's pretty far. It's pretty far from the border here, so it's less likely you're going to get spotted, right? There's our 14-kilometer circle. So it's far less likely you're going to get spotted all the way from the border. And getting shots, right? Like this guy's 18.5 kilometers away. Oftentimes people are going to be this far away, 21 kilometers. You're more than safe enough to make this play usually. Same with the other side. I like to send my battleship up to this island because I love pushing plays, guys. What can I say? But this side is even more imbalanced. You'll notice that this island here is it juts out a long ways and prevents your retreat if you have to turn around here. All of a sudden you're here, and then, I got to turn flat broadside to everybody who's shooting me from up here, right? And that's why this push is so much more committal from the south than it is from the north, because the north doesn't have an island along this whole line. The easiest pushes on this map, if you're trying to get to these corner ones, are the north rock from the north spawn, because there's no island, and the South Rock from the South spawn, because this island is so much farther back compared to this one. So not the most balanced or mirrored thing in the world, but there's definitely good options there for your battleships. Now, pushing late game is very fun. I find late game on this map is actually a really good time. So I'm just gonna get rid of all these little dots that I've made, because we're just gonna take a look at hypotheticals for a little bit. And this, I don't want this to get too confusing. So let's say you've pushed all the way through the A cap, and now you're trying to deal with B, right? So you're up here with your team. You've pushed the enemy team back like this. What can you do? Well, the really fun thing from A is to just push straight into B with your battleship. You'll have to be careful of torpedoes, but once you get control of this, it's really hard for the enemy team to take back, because you have this strong island here to put, a radar cruiser on this side here. Yeah, good luck getting B from that. These islands become, much more viable, this one here, especially because you start to be able to back out here without taking massive crossfires from this side especially. But the main thing is putting your battleship or radar cruiser or something into B here and just straight up stalling it. If the enemy team is pushed through C and they're all over here, well, obviously going to this side is going to be better. If the enemy team is more just kind of stuck in their spawn, this side is definitely going to be better. And you're going to be very, very safe. And it's a play I've made quite a bit, where I think in Kings of the C7 in the final game there, I sent my battleship in through like this and stalled out the B cap to win the game. And the whole series, actually. That was the first international win we got, which was pretty fun. And that was all because you can just push your battleship in here late game and stall. Because their team was all up here and over here. So they eventually put some ships in here to try and farm me out, but it wasn't in time. And it's a lot of fun. Pushing into B from the C flank is way harder. You're generally not going to send your battleship through here. It's just too far a distance to cover, right? Like, look at all this open water here for your battleship to get torped, burned out, all that stuff by the enemy team. If you're pushing in from this flank, it's way less covered. So generally, you're going to want to do within your battleship is you're going to want to put it in these islands here. You can put it here. You can get some solid crossfires on these guys up here, assuming the enemy team has been pushed out of here. You obviously you don't want to give broadside to the enemy team. But if your team has the enemy team all cornered up here, and they're kiting and stalling out here, a good position to be in is right here. You get very, very, very nice nice shots from here. You can see it's it's far, 21, 22 kilometers, but that's hittable in a battleship. And oftentimes it's not even that you need to hit, it's that the enemy needs to feel your presence as oh no, this is something extra, this is another angle we have to deal with. And that might open them up to your teammates over on the other side. Other good islands to push into are like this here. You can set up on this island here, on either side, really, and, lob shells over, that kind of thing. But you're not really going to be pushing into B. You push up into these islands and try and focus on the team as you push through C. It's a little harder to deal with B from the C flank once you've won C. That's why generally it's better to win the A cap, just because the islands are just so much stronger once you've won A to help you hold B. It's a lot stronger to go from A to B than C to B, and that's really what the game turns out to be later on in games. Is everybody starts like this, but eventually one side takes A, one side takes C, and then they fight over B, and it's almost like their spawns have rotated 90 degrees, and one team is spawning here and the other team is spawning here. And I don't know if you guys remember old Island, or not Islands of Ice, sorry, Tears of the Desert, but this is actually what it looked like. The islands were different, obviously, but there was island chains like this and island chains like this over here, and everybody actually spawned on the over here versus over here. And that was a very different playing map. I don't know if it was better, it was a long time ago, but this map is quite a lot of fun to play. And really, you're looking for crossfires. Battleships are quite strong on this map because there's a lot of islands where people have to cross, right? So getting shots in as people cross There's a lot of safe points though for cruisers to be in, like we talked about. These kind of safer spots here for cruisers to play mean that the battleships have to get their shots in while they can. And there's some very interesting flanking, pushing opportunities around the flanks. So Tears of the Cruisers, Tears of the Desert isn't that bad of a map. The problem is people just don't know about these really cool flanking routes, I feel like they're just too scared to try them. And they get locked up into this, oh, we'll sit here, and we'll just shoot each other. Well, nowadays it looks like we'll sit here, and we'll shoot each other from 20 kilometers. And same over here, from here to here. And then I can see why that would be boring in a map you don't like. But if you want to try something interesting, try some of these flanking routes. They're definitely a ton of fun on this map. I really do enjoy them. And I've had a lot of fun going on these sides. So thank you guys for watching. That's kind of my quick look at Tears of the Deserts. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day.